The wait is finally over. After everything we witnessed in Season 5, after the tears, the miracles, the betrayal, the moment that broke every single one of us when Judas made his choice, the countdown has now officially begun for Season 6. And this is not just another season. This is the season, the one we have been preparing our hearts for since the very first episode of The Chosen. The Crucifixion is coming. And everything, every single storyline, every character arc, every quiet moment between Jesus and his disciples, every laugh, every miracle, every heartbreak we have experienced across 5 seasons, it has all been leading to this. Season 6 is going to change us. Not just as fans of the show, but deep inside, in the place where faith lives. So stay with me, because what I am about to share with you about the Episode 1 trailer, what we are going to witness, and the official release date, is something every Chosen fan has been desperately waiting to hear. Let us start from the very beginning of what Season 6, Episode 1 is going to show us, because the trailer alone has already made it clear that Dallas Jenkins and the entire Chosen team are holding absolutely nothing back this season. From the very first frames of the trailer, you can feel it. The atmosphere has completely shifted. Gone is the warmth and the golden light that surrounded Jesus and his disciples in the earlier seasons. Gone are the campfire moments, the laughter around a shared meal, the tender conversations between Jesus and those who loved him most. What replaces all of that is something heavier, darker, and almost unbearable to watch, even in trailer form. The color palette has changed, the music has changed, the way the camera moves around Jesus has changed. Everything feels like the world itself is holding its breath, knowing what is about to happen, even as the people inside it remain blind to the weight of what they are setting in motion. Episode 1 is going to pick up exactly where Season 5 left us, and if you remember how Season 5 ended, you already know that there is no gentle entry point into this story. There is no easing in. Judas has already made his choice. The betrayal has already happened, and as Episode 1 opens, we are going to find Jesus already in the hands of those who want him silenced. The arrest has taken place. The kiss in the garden has already sealed what was coming, and now the machinery of injustice is moving, and it will not stop until it reaches Golgotha. But before it gets there, Jesus must pass through a series of trials that will test not only his endurance, but the endurance of every single person watching. Because what The Chosen has always done better than anything else is make you feel like you are inside the story. And Season 6, Episode 1 is going to pull you so deep inside the story that you are going to feel every moment of it in your chest. The very first thing that happens in Episode 1 is that Jesus is brought before Annas. Now, if you know your scripture, you know that Annas was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest, and he was one of the most powerful religious figures of his time. A man used to being obeyed, a man who had spent decades watching people bow before his authority. And now Jesus stands before him, and Annas immediately begins his interrogation. He wants to know about the disciples. He wants to know about the teachings. He is building a case, looking for something, anything, that he can use to bring Jesus down. The questions are sharp, designed to trap, designed to humiliate, designed to make Jesus look like a dangerous radical who has been secretly plotting against the establishment. And what makes this scene so extraordinary, and what the trailer has already given us a glimpse of, is the complete and utter calmness of Jesus in response to all of it. Jonathan Rumi is going to deliver something in this scene that I genuinely believe will be one of the most talked about performances in the entire series. We have watched him carry this role with such grace and such depth for 5 seasons now, but Season 6 is going to ask something different of him, something harder. Because now Jesus is not teaching on a hillside. He is not healing someone by a well. He is standing before people who despise him, who have already decided he must die, and he has to carry the full weight of what is happening while remaining completely surrendered to it. And when Annas presses him, when the interrogation reaches its peak, Jesus simply responds with a truth so calm and so piercing that it stops the room. He says, "I have taught openly. Why are you questioning me as if I were hiding?" It is the kind of line that sounds simple on paper, but when Jonathan delivers it, standing there in that room surrounded by hostility, it is going to land like something sacred. Because it is not defiance, it is not anger, it is just truth spoken by someone who has nothing to hide and never did. And then comes one of the most intense moments of the entire episode. One of Annas's guards, enraged by what he sees as disrespect toward his master, strikes Jesus. The trailer has already shown us a flash of this moment, and it is jarring in the way only the chosen knows how to be jarring. Because this show has always understood that violence against Jesus is not just physical. It carries a spiritual weight that presses down on everything around it. And the way Dallas Jenkins has chosen to frame this moment, the way the camera lingers on Jesus afterward, on his composure, on the stillness in his eyes even after the blow, is going to devastate the audience in the best and most meaningful way possible. Because that is who Jesus is in this story. Not broken by what is done to him, not rattled, just present and enduring and carrying something none of the people around him can fully understand. While all of this is happening inside with Annas, there is another story unfolding in the courtyard outside. And that story belongs to Simon Peter. Now, Peter has one of the most painful arcs in all of Scripture, and The Chosen has spent 5 seasons building his character with such richness and such humanity that when this moment finally arrives, when Peter stands in that courtyard and someone looks at him and asks if he knows Jesus, the weight of what he is about to do is going to be almost unbearable. The trailer has given us just enough of Peter in this episode to know that the show is going to treat this moment with the full gravity it deserves, because this is not just a man lying to protect himself. This is a man who told Jesus he would die before he ever denied him. This is a man who drew his sword in the garden to defend him. And now, in the cold of the courtyard, with the fire burning nearby and strangers watching, Peter says the words that will haunt him for the rest of his life. He is not one of them. He does not know this man. He is not Jesus' disciple, 3 times. And somewhere inside that building, Jesus is being struck by a guard, and Peter is outside in the dark, falling apart in a way he never imagined he could. Episode 1 is likely going to close somewhere around here, and it is going to leave you sitting in silence, staring at your screen, feeling the full weight of what betrayal costs, not just the one who is betrayed, but the one who does the betraying. Now, as episode 1 closes and we move deeper into what season 6 is going to show us across its remaining episodes, the story does not slow down for even a single breath. If anything, it accelerates. Because after the interrogation before Annas, after Peter's denial in the courtyard, the machinery of injustice that we talked about earlier is now moving faster, and it is moving with a purpose that no one can stop and no one can redirect. Jesus is now going to be brought before Caiaphas, the high priest, and if the trial before Annas felt heavy, what happens before Caiaphas is going to feel like the full weight of the world pressing down on one single man. And that man is going to carry it. Not because he has to, but because he chose to. That is the thing about Jesus in The Chosen that has always made this show different from every other portrayal of his story. He is never a victim of what is happening to him. He is always in every single moment making a choice. And season 6 is going to make that clearer and more powerful than it has ever been before. The trial before Caiaphas is one of the most theologically loaded scenes in all of Scripture, and Dallas Jenkins has been building toward this moment since season 1. Because everything Caiaphas represents, the religious establishment, the fear of losing power, the willingness to sacrifice an innocent man to preserve a system, has been woven carefully into the background of this show for 5 seasons. We have seen glimpses of Caiaphas before. We have understood the tension building between the Sanhedrin and the growing movement surrounding Jesus. But now that tension has reached its absolute breaking point, and what happens in this trial is going to define the rest of the season. The Sanhedrin will gather. And the first thing they will do is go looking for witnesses. False witnesses. People they can bring forward to testify against Jesus, to construct a case that looks legitimate even though everyone in that room knows it is built on nothing. And this detail alone tells you everything you need to know about the people putting Jesus on trial. They are not interested in truth. They never were. They are interested in a conclusion they have already reached, and they are simply looking for the paperwork to support it. But here is where something remarkable happens. Something that, even in the middle of all this darkness, manages to carry a strange kind of light. None of the witnesses agree with each other. The Sanhedrin goes out, they find people willing to speak against Jesus, they bring them in one after another, and not a single testimony aligns with another. Every story contradicts the one before it. Every accusation falls apart under its own weight. And according to Jewish law, testimony that does not align cannot be used. It is declared invalid, which means that even in the moment when the most powerful religious council in Jerusalem is trying with everything it has to condemn an innocent man, the truth keeps breaking through. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, persistently, the way truth always does. And this is one of those moments where The Chosen is going to show its audience something that goes beyond entertainment. Because watching the false witnesses contradict each other is not just a legal detail. It is a reminder that no matter how organized the forces against Jesus were, no matter how determined, they could not manufacture a lie solid enough to hold. And Dallas Jenkins is going to make sure the audience feels the significance of that. So, with the witnesses failing, Caiaphas himself steps forward. And this is the moment the entire trial has been building toward. Frustrated, feeling the pressure of a council that expected results, Caiaphas does what powerful men do when the process fails them. He abandons the process entirely and goes straight for the confrontation. He looks directly at Jesus and asks the question, the one question that cuts through everything. Are you the Messiah? Are you the Son of the Blessed One? And the room goes completely still because everyone in that room understands what this question means. They understand what a yes means and what a no means. They understand that the answer Jesus gives in this moment is going to determine everything that follows. And Jesus, standing there, having been awake all night, having been arrested, having been struck, having been dragged from one judgment to the next, looks at Caiaphas and delivers what might genuinely be the most powerful line in the entire series so far. He says, "You have said so, and from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Read that again slowly and let it sink in. Because what Jesus says in this moment is not just a confirmation of who he is, it is a declaration about what is coming. It is Jesus looking at the very men who are about to condemn him and telling them that the story does not end here, that beyond this room, beyond this trial, beyond the cross itself, there is something they cannot see and cannot stop. And Jonathan Rumi is going to deliver this line in a way that will make you feel it in a place words cannot fully reach. Because this is what Jonathan does. He has always understood that playing Jesus is not about performing. It is about embodying a kind of presence that goes beyond the words on the page. And in this moment, in this scene, with the entire Sanhedrin watching and the weight of the world pressing down, that presence is going to be undeniable. The reaction from the council is immediate and explosive. Caiaphas tears his robes. The council erupts. They declare it blasphemy. They demand death. And just like that, in that room, in that moment, the verdict is reached. Not because of evidence, not because of valid testimony, but because Jesus told the truth about who he was, and the truth was more than they could bear. The path to the crucifixion is now fully and irreversibly set, and the show is going to make sure you feel the enormity of what just happened. Because this is not a procedural moment. This is the hinge on which all of human history turns. And The Chosen, more than any other telling of this story, understands how to make you feel that in your bones. But before we move to what happens next, there is one more story that has to be told in this part of the season. And it is one of the most heartbreaking stories in all of Scripture. Because the moment the verdict is reached, the moment the council declares that Jesus must die, something happens to Judas. The man who started all of this, the man whose kiss in the garden set everything in motion, is not somewhere celebrating his 30 pieces of silver. He is not relieved that it is over. He is destroyed. Because Judas, whatever his reasons were, whatever he told himself he was doing and why, never truly believed it would come to this, and now it has, and the weight of what he has done comes crashing down on him with a force that he cannot survive. He goes to the temple, he finds the chief priests and the elders.
And he throws the 30 pieces of silver onto the floor of the temple and says the words that will follow him into eternity. I have sinned, for I have betrayed innocent blood. And the priests, who used him to get what they wanted, look at him with cold indifference and say, "What is that to us? That is your problem." And in that moment, Judas understands something terrible, that he was never anything more than a tool to these people, that they never cared about him, that the moment he served his purpose, he became irrelevant. And with that understanding living inside him, with no way to undo what he has done and no one willing to offer him the grace he needed, Judas ends his own life. And the silver that was used to buy the betrayal of the Son of God is left scattered across the floor of the temple. Luke Demian has carried the role of Judas with such extraordinary complexity throughout this series. He has never played Judas as simply a villain. He has played him as a man, a deeply flawed, deeply broken man who made a catastrophic choice and could not find his way back from it. And what the show is going to do with his final scenes this season is going to be something that stays with the audience long after the episode ends. Because the tragedy of Judas is not just what he did. It is that grace was always available to him. Peter also betrayed Jesus that night. Peter also failed in the most devastating way. But Peter came back, and Judas could not. And the chosen has always understood that the distance between those two outcomes is not about the size of the sin. It is about whether you believe, even in your worst moment, that you can be received. That is the story of Judas, and Season 6 is going to tell it with the full, heartbreaking weight it deserves. With the verdict sealed inside the halls of the Sanhedrin, with Judas gone and Peter broken in the courtyard, and with the chief priests and elders now holding in their hands the death sentence they have been desperate to reach, the story moves into its next chapter. And this chapter introduces a figure whose internal struggle is going to become one of the most compelling threads running through the middle portion of Season 6. Because now, Jesus must be brought before Pontius Pilate. And Pontius Pilate is not a simple man to understand. He is not purely evil in the way the chief priests have been. He is not driven by religious jealousy or fear of losing theological authority. Pilate is a politician, a Roman governor who has spent his career learning how to read rooms, manage crowds, and survive in a system that rewards ruthlessness and punishes weakness. And the moment Jesus is brought before him,